In this video, you're going to learn how to add a pause menu to your game so that when you press escape, your game pauses, everyone stops, and you're able to either continue or go back to the main menu, which we're also going to add a main menu that lets you quit your game or start playing again. With that, let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is flip over to our game over screen. So to create a main menu, we're pretty much going to repurpose this exactly. We're just going to take this and then just change the title here, change up the script a bit, and have new buttons. We're also going to, as part of that, on our game over screen, provide a new button that lets the player quit out to the main menu without actually quitting the game. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to do. So I'm going to select this game over screen here, and I'm going to copy this scene, and we're going to make a new one based off of it. So let me come actually down to UI here, and what I'm going to do is just duplicate our game over screen from the file menu, and it'll say main menu screen. There we go. We'll do that, and then I'll pop this open here. And then we'll just rename this here to be main menu screen. And I'm actually going to detach this script and then add a new one in just a second. But first we'll go through and change up all of the different things in here that we need to. So this title, for example, this can be main menu. If you had a name for your game, this is where we'd put it. So for here, we'll say top down shooter tutorial. Will it fit? Kind of. We'll just drop the tutorial for now. So top down shooter, again, get a better name for your game there. And then we're gonna have two buttons here. This first one is gonna be here. We'll disconnect both of these real quick. Okay, so we're gonna still have a quit button just like we did on our game over, but now we'll actually have a play button here. So this will be play, and I'm gonna add 2 spaces to both sides just to make the button space out. Again, kind of hacky, but just easier than setting up anything else. So I just added 2 spaces to each side of the word play there to make our buttons a little bit bigger. So now we've got a main menu. It's pretty simple, but all the necessities are there. And what we can do is, of course, add a script here now to our main menu screen. And we'll just have all this stuff in here. This is going to look, again, kind of similar to our game over screen, except we won't actually be changing the title here, so it'll be even simpler. So I'll save this, come back out to our UI, and then wire up and connect our buttons here. So our play button will connect our press signal, come to here, and then on play, what we're going to do is just change our scene to be our main scene. And so what we're going to need to actually do as part of this is change which scene is our main scene, our startup scene. Right now we have this scene called main, which is pretty much our game. And this is the scene that whenever we hit run up here, command B or control B, this is the scene that gets run. But we don't actually want that. When our game starts up, we want to run our main menu screen. So we need to set this to be our main scene. We're not going to change our scene name from main here just because it's kind of already established. And it is our main game scene, but it's not going to be our startup scene. So in order to do that, we can go into project settings, and then you will see run. If you go to application, then run, you'll see a main scene here. We're going to change this to be UI main menu screen. So now when we hit command B, or control B or run, we are going to open our main menu screen and not our main scene. And just to show that, you'll see here I'm on the main scene, but if I hit command B to run it, it'll go to our main menu. And nothing is actually wired up right now. And so this is really nice. Our main menu is in the game now, but you might be wondering, well, this is kind of annoying because every time I run my game to play test it, I don't want to have to click on the menu buttons and load everything, which is totally fair. So one thing you can do if you want to keep your main scene as your main menu, but still run this, is just you can use the command R, control R, this play scene here, this button that's defined right up here, and this plays the scene that you've got open. And so it might just change be a change of habits, but now I can just always run my game from the main scene, hit command R, and I'm right in the game. Don't have to go through the main menu. So those are just some ways to kind of change your main scene, what runs at startup, and ways to kind of get around that for play testing purposes. But now that we have our play button wired up, I'm going to wire up our quit button as well, just using the press signal, and then we'll fill in both of these. So now we've got both of these methods here. Now we actually need to do something with them. So first thing, let's wire up, we'll do our quit button first. Since we already have precedent for this with our game over screen, it's gonna look pretty much identical to what we had there. So if I go back to our game over screen script, we'll see that on our quit button pressed, we just say get tree quit. So I'm gonna just take that, copy that, come back over here and paste the same code. Super easy. So now we've got that. Let's do our play button now. And we're gonna do, again, kind of the same thing that we did before where we changed our scene here, and we're going to copy this, and it's actually going to be pretty much the same thing because what our restart button is doing is restarting our main scene, main being our game, not our startup scene, and we want to do this exact same thing from our main menu. So I'm going to take this and just paste it in, and then now whenever we press our play button, we're going to start our main scene, our game scene. So now if I hit Command B to run our game, we'll get to our main menu. And if I hit quit, we quit our game. Let me do it again. And if I hit play, we're in. So it's so easy. Just like that, we've already got a main menu and we've got something that works. And we're able to get it and use it, and it can quit our game or start our game. So now that we have that, let's go into our game over screen and add a main menu button like we talked about before. So I'm going to duplicate our restart button. I'll call this main menu button, and we'll change this to be main menu. And let me add a space there and there. And then we might have to resize this a little bit. Oh, I think part of this might be because our container is a little messed up here. Hold on. There we go. That's better. Okay, so sometimes weird visual glitches, all you have to do is just hide and then show again and it'll update. Just quirks of the editor. So now that we've got our main menu button, let's connect this one up. Actually, since we copied our restart button, we've already got that connection there for the restart function. We don't want that. Let's disconnect it. Double click on pressed again, and we will reconnect it to a new function called on main menu button pressed. And then what we're going to do here is basically do this exact same thing that we had up here, except this time we're going to change our scene not to main but to main menu. So the path for that, you might remember, is UI, and then it should pretty much fill it in, main menu screen. Let me get rid of the rest of that. And one thing we also want to make sure here too is that there is a possibility that in our game over screen, or not even a possibility, it's just a truth, that our game is going to be paused. So we also want to do this here that we're doing our restart button, where we're unpausing our game, and set this here when we're transitioning to our main menu, or we're clicking on our main menu button. So again, there might be better ways to do this. You'd probably want a more foolproof way, so you didn't have to remember to unpause for every single button press. And there are ways to build a little bit better system, but because we've only got a small amount of buttons here, it should be pretty much good to go. And now what's going to happen is I'm actually just going to run our game over screen. So I'm going to use Command R, and then if I hit main menu, we should see it go to the main menu. So hit main menu. Here we are. I can hit play. Just like that. Super easy to get a main menu screen up and running and get it working. But now this has been pretty short and pretty quick to do, so there's one more thing we're going to try and do this in this video, and that's create a pause screen that has kind of the same same thing that we've been doing here. We're going to just have a way to quit out to the main menu from our pause screen. So we'll build that right now. So first, let's actually build out our pause screen. So I'm going to create a new scene over here. We're going to hit other node, and we're going to make another canvas layer because we want our pause screen to appear over top our game. And so because of that, we'll say pause screen here. And so we're going to do a lot of similar stuff to what we've been doing before with our other UI screens. We're going to add a container that's going to kind of, well, it does what it says. It contains our UI elements. We're also going to add an overlay, though, that's going to take up the entirety of the screen. And this overlay is going to be kind of a transparent gray that darkens what's behind it as things are paused. So it's kind of a nice feel. You see this in pause menus all over, where the menu appears, but then you can still kind of see behind it in the gameplay, but it gets dark and frozen, and it gives a nice effect that really tells the user, hey, the game is actually paused right now. Okay, so let's start building this out. It's going to look a little different than our other UI screens because we're going to have an overlay near the top of the tree here. So first we're going to have a panel container. We'll do this, and this is going to be our overlay. So we want this to stretch the entirety of the screen. So we'll hit full rect here under the layout tab. And then we're going to go to our custom styles and add a new style box flat here. Unlike before though, we're going to just make this a flat black texture, but we're going to make the alpha be, let's do about 64, I don't know, random power of 2 there. And you'll see now it's a somewhat transparent kind of gray darkening effect that's going to darken the rest of our screen. So we'll call this overlay. And then what we're going to do is now we're going to add another container, and this is going to be a center container. This also is going to stretch for the full rectangle, the full size of the screen. And this is going to be the parent of our actual pause menu. So this center container is going to keep all of the elements in the center of the screen, which is what we want because we want our pause menu to just appear dead center. So after our center container, we're going to add another panel container. And this panel container is going to be our actual pause menu. This is going to be where we actually have our UI elements, where we're going to have our buttons and everything. So I'm going to do another style box flat here just so we can help differentiate it and see that it's there. It's not showing up because there's no children. It doesn't take up any space right now. So we can fix that. So similar to our other UI elements, like our main menu, we want to have a margin container as a child of our panel container to make sure that our elements are not touching the edge of the screen. So we'll do the same thing here, margin container. And then after that, we want the elements of our pause menu to be vertically stacked. So you probably know where this is going. We're going to have a VBox container here. And I'll call this rows, as I am wont to do at times. And so I will call this pause menu container for our center container, since that's kind of the parent of our actual pause menu itself. And just to kind of give an example of what this is going to look like, I'm going to add another child here, which is just going to be a label. I'll start typing, hello, this is a label. And you'll see that we've got a pause menu appearing. It's not taking up as much space as we want. Part of that is because we need to actually set our margins. We'll just set them to be 20 on each side right now. So we've got this thing that appears in the middle. Again, it's really useless right now. Before we actually start getting into the content of our pause menu here, let's talk about the style. We probably want this to be somewhat consistent in appearance to our other UI elements. In this case, we've only got 2, our game over and our main menu screen. So previously what we've done for these panels is just kind of copied the styles. They are separate, even though they're pretty much the same. But what we can do is actually save the style that we've been using for both of these and just plug that in. So instead of creating a new style and trying to get it to match, what I can do is actually select this here and I can hit save, and I'm going to save this as menu style. Typically I like to save resources of one kind or another in snake case as opposed to Pascal case, which is usually what you do for scenes, because these are not things that you instantiate. They're not actual objects in your game. They're just resources that you're using to help develop your game. So I'll do this just menu style as a TRES, which is a resource file. Then I can come back over to our pause screen, select our main panel container, and I can drag in our style here, and it'll replace it with the style of the rest of our menus. And one reason this is somewhat problematic is because this gray is kind of the same color as our overlay, but we'll see if that's a problem later on, if it kind of blends in or not. I think it'll be fine, especially with our black border. So anyway, now that we have this, let's actually save this pause screen. I'll just save pausescreen.tscene in our UI folder here, save that. And now we're ready to kind of start building out our content. So really at the start, there's only going to be 2 things that or 3 things that we want on our pause menu. We want a label, a title that just says pause, so the user knows that, hey, the game is paused right now. And then we also want a button to return or continue that will unpause the game and get rid of the pause menu and allow the game to continue. And we want a quit button. We'll probably just do quit to main menu and then require actually quitting from the main menu to really quit the game. So that way we can just cut down on buttons. So we'll have a title and 2 buttons, and that's what we'll add right now. So we've already kind of got the title going on here. So I'll just say pause title, and we're gonna make this consistent with our other fonts. So I'll give it 64. I don't think that'll be that is too big, as it turns out. We'll do 32. All right, and so this is going to be, we'll say paused. Just, let the user know what's going on. And then just as kind of a visual flair, I just like to do this. Godot provides a lot of ways for you to kind of style your UI elements without having to do a bunch of, or make your own assets. So we can do a H separator. There we go. And this will kind of just create a line that we can style as needed. So it'll just give a little bit of separation here to kind of make our menu or our title stand out from the buttons that we'll add right now. So now I can add buttons. And again, like I said, we'll have 2 of these. So this first button, we'll need to actually, let me get rid of this second button real quick. What I meant to do was find this button here, and we'll drag in our font to this. So we'll drag in the 36 font here, and I will write continue, and then I will copy this, and this will be quit. Okay, so now we've got our 2 buttons. I'm going to take our pause title here and center this just so it looks a little bit better. And then I don't think, the one thing that's kind of weird with these H separators is I don't think this separation constant, oh, maybe it does. If I set this to 100, oh, actually, would you look at that? So let's set this to 20. And what we can also do is in our rows here, again, we can set the separation constant here as well. I think that looks a little bit better. Yeah, so it's a very basic, no one's, you're not going to win any design awards for this, but it works. Let's set this to be 40, and then I'm actually going to get rid of our H separator, or just set this to our default here. And I think that's good enough. Actually, let's go back to 20. Keep changing my mind, but I think that's good. This is all we need. So now we've got both of our buttons. I'm going to call this continue button here, just so that we can get these from our code, and quit button here. Again, you'd probably want this to say main menu or quit to main menu, since it's not actually quitting the game, but win some, you lose some, it's not a huge deal. So let's create our script here. You kind of already know what we're going to do with this. We're going to wire up both of our buttons here, and I'll do the same with our quit button. So we'll just connect our press signals. And let's get rid of all of this boilerplate. And our quit button, again, this is going to be really similar to what we've been doing in other places. So for our game over, we already added a quit to main menu button. So it's really just going to be the same thing here. And again, remember, we haven't done it yet, but when we pause our game, we're going to pause the tree. We're going to get tree.paused equals true. So we also want to add this here to our pause screen. Remember that I said this is not the most efficient way. We're leaving ourselves prone to forgetting to unpause our game, which would be bad. But just for the sake of simplicity, we're going to just copy this same line of code in. So just for your own sake, just remember you probably want a more robust way to make sure you're not forgetting to type in this line here, but we'll do it for right now. So now we've got a function that is going to take us back to the main menu. And okay, I think I'm going to actually quit to main. Actually, let's just call this main menu. I've convinced myself, and I'm going to add just a space there. Let's change this to main menu button. I just kept seeing quit, and that just wasn't really what that button was doing. So I'm just going to redo these connections with the new button name, and grab this and bring it down here. Get rid of that. Okay, sorry for that slight detour, but now we've got a main menu button that's going to take us back to the main menu, which is perfect. Now, though, for our continue button, here's what's going to happen. So we haven't actually implemented the spawning of our pause menu in our game, but the way it's going to work is that whenever the player presses the pause button, which you can make your own button for that on your GUI, your heads-up display, we're just going to bind it to the escape key. We're not going to have a button for it right now. But whenever the player presses the escape key, it's going to spawn an instance of this pause screen. So we're not going to have it hidden and then show it. We're just going to spawn it in. We're going to instance it. And so whenever the continue button is pressed, we want to do two things. We want to get rid of the pause screen so that it's not consuming all of the user's mouse input. We want that to be the game itself. And we're going to unpause, which is what we need to do down here. So first we are going to unpause. And then once we've unpaused, we're going to cue free. So we're going to free our pause screen. So we unpause the game and then free our pause screen and we're good to go. One other important thing, and this is something we had to do before, is to remember that when our game is paused, we have to tell Godot which elements should still receive inputs, which should still process while the game is paused. So I'm going to get our pause menu container here, and actually I can just use our canvas layer up here, our pause screen, our top node, and just go to pause, and I'm going to say process. And so that means all of the nodes underneath this are now going to continue processing even when the game is paused, which is what we want since it's a pause menu. So now we've got that, we've got our code wired up. Now we're ready to actually implement this and add it to our game. So the first thing that we're going to need to do with this is add a key binding to allow the player to spawn and pause, or spawn our pause menu and pause the game. So I'm going to come up to our project here, hit project settings, input map, and you'll see we don't really have anything for that now. There is a UI cancel that has escape here, but I'm just going to say pause, and we'll add an action here called pause. I'll hit this, add a key, and it'll be escape. Perfect. Okay, so now we have a pause, a method of pausing the game. What we want to do now is actually listen for that input. So in our main script here, we are just going to, same way that we've kind of been handling some of our player wins and other things here, we are going to add a function that handles input. So we're going to need to add a unhandled input function, which is a built-in function with Godot. We've seen this before in a couple places, so unhandled input. We could use key input here. Right now we only care about a keyboard event, which is our escape key. So you could absolutely use key input, but we'll just use unhandled input, and there's a pretty high chance that at some point you'll need to do more input, like mouse clicks from your main script or something like that. So it doesn't really matter here, but we'll say if event.isAction pressed, and we're going to use escape or pause here, excuse me. So if the player presses the pause key, now we want to spawn our pause menu. And in order to know, or in order to do that, we're going to have to get our pause menu. So what I'm going to do is preload, just like we did with our game over screen, const pause screen, and we're going to say preload, and this is going to be res UI, whoops, not IO, and then pause screen.tscene. Remember, this is the path to our pause screen scene. Man, screen and scene, it's hard to get those words and not mix them up. But so here we're going to say var pause menu, and we're going to say pause screen dot instance. And now that we have this pause menu here, this instance of it, we need to actually add it to our game. So we'll say add child pause menu. Now, when we did our game over screen, we set our paused variable within our main script, which is fine. In retrospect, that might not have been the best way to do it. For our pause screen, whenever it is in our scene tree, we want our game to be paused. So what we can do is just actually add a ready function here in our pause screen, and then do function ready, and we're going to say get tree, whoops, that's not it, get tree, and then paused equals true. So whenever, we're just going to handle it whenever this screen gets added to our game, we're going to pause it. We don't have to do that then down here in our pause or in our main script. And we could do the same thing here. It'd probably actually be better to take this line out and move it into our game over screen script, but we'll keep that there for now. So now that we've got this, there's one other change we need to make, and that is changing our pause screen layer. And I think I actually did this off camera, but normally this is set to 1. We want our pause screen to appear above everything else in the game. And so this layer tool, or this layer property here, is something that determines draw order. So because we want our pause screen to appear above everything else, and I don't think we've changed anything, so they should all be set at 1 right now. If we bump this up to 2, it'll draw on top of everything else, and it'll do so regardless of where it is in the scene tree. So now if I save this, we should be able to run it, and we can see that when we hit escape, when we hit our pause key, we will actually pause the game and our pause menu will appear. Okay, so if I hit Command B, we're going to start our game. We'll see that we're on our main menu, and I hit play. And here we go. We're moving around. The game is going. Change this, shoot some teammates, you know, in a normal day. And I hit escape. There's our pause menu. And you see that things have stopped moving. I hit continue. We're back in business. Let me reload. And then I'll move over here so you can see the action. I hit escape. All of a sudden, everyone is paused. They're not moving anymore. The game is frozen. So I can keep, you know, pausing, hitting continue. And if I hit main menu, it'll back us out to the main menu. And if I hit play again, we've restarted. So we've got a pause menu now that's totally functioning and works. We can go back to the main menu. We can quit our game. We can play it. It just got a lot of really cool functionality that we've built in. We've basically got, we've provided the user all the options they need to play and replay and enjoy and stop playing the game however they want to do it. So these are pretty just essential small things that are important to add to your game to give your user options to interact with it and to quit and to change things and do whatever they need to do. So now you know how to make a main menu and a pause menu, and we've wired it all together in a way that works. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, a like and subscribe are always appreciated. They help the channel grow. You can donate to support my work on Buy Me a Coffee, and we'd love to have you in our Discord server. Link to that is in the description, and we'll see you in the next video.